Did the U.S. really follow the ideals of the Declaration of Independence? The five ideals are equality, democracy, equal rights, liberty, and opportunity. Let's start with equality. The U.S. has in some ways lived to this ideal. For example, the Civil Rights Act ended segregation in 1964, who President Kennedy initiated. Women gained political rights, become more independent over the 20th century. But some other examples are the U.S. has had some negative ways to live up to this ideal. Like at the beginning of the century, after World War I, a lot of people lost their jobs, and because of the ending of the war, business and laborers reduced labor wages and paid less attention to employee safety, and some tried to increase the number of workday hours. As tensions grew, communists tried to spread communism across the country, and in doing so they created the Red Scare. In response to the Red Scare, the government created the Palmer race to inspect and take care of the people they might suspect of being a communist. And over 6,000 people got arrested or were accused of being a communist with little or no proof at all. The majority of these people were foreign-born immigrants who were just deported. Also, immigrants faced discrimination and prejudice. Italians, African Americans, Jews, and Catholics, etc., weren't given the same rights and equality as white Americans. After the war, African Americans had a very hard time to find jobs because of their skin color. Not only were immigrants discriminated physically, but also were prejudiced religiously. Jews and Catholics mostly. They didn't have the liberty that other people had because of their race and their beliefs. A majority of Jews weren't allowed to rent apartments by landlords. They had a hard time finding jobs where people only want to hire Christians, and they were limited education. Catholics were also targeted because people thought that their beliefs and values were a threat to the American nation. As the U.S. immigration increased, also did the resurgence of nativism. In fear of the immigrants becoming 100% American, Congress passed the Emergency Immigrant Act of 1921. This limited the number of immigrants allowed in the U.S. to 375,000 a year, and in 3 years, the Immigration Act of 1924 was passed, decreasing the number of immigrants allowed to enter the U.S., which only allowed 164,000 immigrants into the country per year. Also, immigrants from Asia were denied access to enter the U.S. By the end of the 1921, only 150,000 immigrants were allowed in the U.S. As the Emergency Immigrant Act and the Immigration Act was passed, immigrants were allowed the opportunity to come to the U.S. from the fear of becoming too American. This denied them of the liberty some were seeking and others opportunities to live a better life. To keep values intact, the Ku Klux Klan was formed. This group targeted African Americans, immigrants, Jews, Catholics, and anyone who the KKK thought that their values were un-American. This not only restricted the rights and the equality of these people, but also their liberty. Along with the KKK, the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, was formed that went against the KKK and nativists. They defended unpopular individuals and groups, like immigrants, that the Palmer raids had gathered. Another group that rose with the KKK was the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, whose purpose was to stop the false accusations against the Jews, also to secure justice and fair treatment to all citizens alike. My conclusion that to this question is, in the 20th century, is that it hasn't been very good by following the ideals of the Declaration of Independence. But as far as I see, we have become a better country today.